Hey, yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
Just cranking up the volume a little bit.
Alrighty.
How's your ladder session be? I saw you were in StarCraft earlier. Did you get many games in today?
No, not today. I'm switching over to night shift tomorrow for work, so I've just been sleeping all day. The past
Okay.
week has been a little bit busy, so I haven't been playing a lot. But before, it was like 2 weeks ago, I hit Diamond 2 as soon as I emailed you. Just, I've been playing fairly decently recently.
Hells yeah. That's a big step. Diamond 3 to Diamond 1 is like it's like the, I don't know, the Silk Road or something. It's an epic journey. It's pretty massive. Like the very top of Diamond 1 and the very bottom of Diamond 3 is vastly different. It's like so different. So yeah. That's huge, man. Yeah, definitely won't happen overnight. So all right, hop into chat channel. I mean, just pig. So if you just click in your chat box in game and just type /join space pig, you should see me in there. And once you're in there, you can shoot me an invite. Whoops. Did I just leave that channel? I think I did.
Did I join the right one? All lowercase?
Yeah. Did it put me back in? It's not putting me back in. You stupid thing. All right. Try to join Piggy. Piggy. Yeah, I accidentally left the channel trying to close some of my clutter that was going on. And
There we go.
apparently Maynard messaged me something earlier. I don't see my messages. Oh, it's just Maynard's chat channel, right? All right. There you go. All right. Shut you an invite.
All right. So my MMR is actually on a different profile. I play on 2 profiles for this. I just switched over to this one for because my Discord name is just so it's consistent.
Oh, okay. I mean, if we're gonna be watching, do you have any replays you wanted to go over specifically, or did you want to kind of start from scratch with a matchup? I mean, let's just very quickly. Did you have any ideas of exactly what you wanted to do today before we look at the mechanics and stuff like that?
I would like to refine build order. Build orders. I was thinking we could do a matchup for each hour, and I'm thinking start with TvP. I'm pretty 50-50 on every matchup right now, so it doesn't really matter.
Okay. I'm trying to remember. Did we get 2 or 3 hours? I'm trying to remember.
I think it was 3.
It's 3? Okay, cool. Let me just update that. Where did this go? Oh, I think I've got this written down under... Yes, there we go. There it is. Let me put your name here so I don't get it confused. Or your name is... Because your dad gifted this to you, right? Christmas present?
Yes.
That's it. So I had that under his name. There we go. So I was looking for your name. I was like, why is it not coming up? All right, there we go. Fantastic. Okay. Yep, that sounds like a good idea. One for each matchup. Go over those. The first one often can be a little bit overwhelming in terms of the amount of information I throw at you. So, do you have any skill you're high level at, like maybe your profession or an instrument or a sport you've played at a pretty competitive level? Any skills like that you've kind of had a background in learning something difficult like StarCraft?
I play a lot of instruments. I tell myself how to play guitar and drums and messing with piano and stuff like that. So
Awesome.
I don't know. I like to learn things. But yeah.
Musical is the best. That's good because there's muscle memory there. Lots of practicing little bits, slowing things down and practicing little bits over and over again, and then waking up the next day and it's just there as muscle memory, and you can move on to that other bit that you're not good at, or a new song or whatever. And that's the same with StarCraft. So it's always it's breaking things down into bite-sized bits. I like to try and give as much value in terms of information as possible. So I want to try to get lots of notes in this document each session so that you can come back to it whenever you're like, oh, what should I even be working on today? I don't really know. You can come back and review this document, look at all these notes, and be like, oh, this is an area I haven't even touched on yet because I was so busy working on these other couple of things we talked about during a coaching session. So you can keep coming back to it, and it can help direct you over many, many weeks or even months of practice, hopefully. So if that's something you're cool with, we'll stick to that. Otherwise, for some people, I think who are not as used to learning things like instruments and stuff, I try to keep it a bit simpler because I feel like they're not as organized at like reviewing and kind of breaking things down. And they just go, this is overwhelming. And they never look at the notes again. And it kind of ends up being a redundant coaching session because they're not going back and using the resource the way it could be used.
Yeah, no, I think I can handle it.
Awesome. Sweet as, man. All right. So what we want to do, you know what, maybe hop on your other account real quickly. Hop back into the same chat channel because then you'll have your recent replays available so we can just grab one. What's your weakest matchup?
They're pretty much all 50-50.
All right. Which one do you want to start with then? Just grab one at random or whatever you feel you want to work on the most.
I was thinking Terran versus Protoss because my build is not... I just saw that Hero Marine was doing a Reactor Hellion at one of the tournaments, and I was like, all right. So I did a Reactor Hellion opening, and I've just been YOLOing it since then.
This is every Terran player who's like... so he's like, well, I just do the most recent Hero Marine build because he's such a macro god, and he's very inspiring. That's awesome. All right, man. Okay, coaching 8th January. So the way I do the document is I'm always going to put your notes up the top from the most recent session. Once you're back in the chat channel, just shoot me an invite to party. You'll see me there. In the PG channel.
I'm trying to look for a replay that is actually a good one to review. Most of the time when I'm versing Protoss, it's just Cannon Rush. Cannon Rushes have been very popular in Diamond recently.
You've hit like that weird current in the ladder, right? Like it's one of those things where you start hitting the couple of 3 or 4 dudes who are Cannon Rushing every game and suddenly feels like, wait, is this every TvP? This is so weird. And then you'll hit like a few hundred MMR higher and you won't play against it for ages or something. And then you'll run into it again every now and then.
Yeah. Here's one I played earlier this morning. I did really bad, I think. I was floating like 1,500 minerals. I just wasn't focused as much. Sweet. But
no worries. Just shoot me an invite to party. I mean, we don't even need a game to be perfect because so much of StarCraft is we can say, well, what was the game plan here? And that in itself tells us a lot. So,
okay.
It is XR. Sweet. Yeah, so you can host up, replay, watch with others. And once we're in the lobby, just right-click my name in the lobby and go promote to lobby host so I can steer the replay. And that should be awesome.
Alrighty.
I think we're good. Yep.
Oh, I think in this game I got hit early pressure. He had 2 adepts and a stalker at my natural, and it screwed me up a lot. So I was thrown off. I'm not sure if I think I won this one actually, but it wasn't very clean.
No worries. I'm so much more interested always in like the structure and the thinking, right? Than an individual game in of itself, right? Anytime we lose, we're frustrated, we feel like we're losing our way with improvement, try to have the mindset of how can I adapt the system rather than that led me to the bad situation, rather than next time a stalker runs in, I should just click faster. I shouldn't fucking do the dumb thing. You know, try to organize in your mind in terms of like, let's kind of say to ourselves, just with learning in general, always look to adjust the system, to fix, our process rather than an individual bad mistake, which is often a symptom, right? So a couple of points with that. Look for the earlier mistakes lead to bigger mistakes later, right?
Mm-hmm.
Focus on the earlier. Focus on cleaning up the early mistakes. Check your knowledge of exactly what should happen versus what you're doing in game, right? A lot of the time there's a big discrepancy there, even at high level. You're like, yeah, I do this every game. And watch a replay and like, oh, I'm actually not doing that. I thought I was, but you lose track of what you thought you were doing. Yeah. Even bigger for, players who aren't pro gamers is something's not defined. There's a decision that's made game to game, but it changes. One game it's this, one game it's that. It's somewhat reactive, but there's not an exact system in place for why we're doing it, right? So anytime something is reactive, try to define it further. So a lot of people get around actually having a good idea of what they're doing in StarCraft. This plagues Terran more than the other races because we're more of a build order focused race, especially in the early game. And we get around fixing those mistakes and refining it by basically saying to ourselves, oh, well, if they do this, I do this. If they do that, I do that. And the moment we find ourselves not having perfect information, we go, what the fuck am I doing? And we start to screw up because we don't actually have a baseline. Sometimes if we're doing good and we're decisive, we choose one of those. And we just hope it's okay. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But other times we go, fuck, I don't know which one to do. And then the moment we lose decisiveness, we lose a clear direction, we will make 100 times as many mistakes, right? This is the biggest thing. I was talking earlier, I got angry after a loss. And I was like, look, I'm not angry over any individual mistake. I'm angry that at some point in the game, there was a challenging situation and I didn't make a decision. Rather than just going, okay, I'm gonna go for this specific push. I kind of veered towards that push. Then I started going for some other tech. Then I went for some other tech. And I just kind of like dilly-dallied in this weird middle ground where there was no strategic point. And in any strategy game, especially something fast-paced like StarCraft, the moment we lose that focus, we get ruined because we suddenly are overwhelmed by the limitless choices in front of us. We don't have a clear direction, and we're going to start to get supply blocked constantly. We're going to miss add-ons. We're going to forget stim or shields or something. We're not going to be looking at our drop as it enters the mineral line. It gets shot down. All these sorts of things. So anytime something is reactive, try to define it further and have an exact game plan. And the way you can do that, maybe it's meant to be reactive. But what you want to do is you want to have a baseline.
Is under attack.
So what you want to think of it is there's always a baseline thing that you do by default. So if you don't have information, that's what you do. So whatever the most common part of the build is, that's the trunk. Have a baseline, a trunk of the build. If you imagine the build as a tree.
Yeah.
And then define your reactions or branches separately from the trunk. Whenever not sure what to do, we go with the trunk, right? Whenever lost after some crazy shit and a branch has gone all over the place, right? There's been like just series of shit surprising you. It happens. That's sometimes people play crazy styles or we can't scout it all. It's hard to anticipate, right? So what do we do in that scenario? The game's gone off the rails a bit, but you've stabilized a little bit. Do you have any rule set in these crazy games where things get a bit messy of trying to get back on track? Do you just try to follow your normal build? Do you try to counterattack as quickly as possible to check? You kind of try to skill check them? Is there anything that kind of pops to mind for you?
I try to get my macro focus, like make sure I've got the proper number of barracks and whatnot if I need to add an additional factory or starport, because I'm really bad at doing that. Other than that, no, not really a specific plan. I just kind of go for make sure my macros in check.
That's a good start. So essentially what I'm going to say now is just defining that further, right? It's the same thing. Make sure your macros in check, get all your basics down, right? Those are the easiest things to screw up because all your timings are a bit different to normal because you've just dealt with a whole bunch of things. Maybe you have more gas or less gas than you normally do, so you can't quite afford this thing on time, and then you need to go for this other, oh, I've got to get my third command center before upgrades because I don't have the gas for it, or I need to take my third and fourth gas. There's adjustments that need to take place. It takes more attention. So focus on macro is key.
Research.
But I would also say try to get back to your trunk is the best thing there. Because we're not going to be able to adapt to every one of those changes, but if we can just get back to the trunk of the build, that's the thing we've practiced the most and we know the most. So even if it's not the most perfect for the situation, by trying to get back in that direction, you're automatically just going to start hitting stuff better because you will find a rhythm where you can sink back into muscle memory. And rather than being... did you watch... what was the movie with the jazz drummist? Whiplash. Did you watch Whiplash?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, you gotta watch that movie. It's so good. Anyway, basically, I was gonna say, the moment you don't get back to your build order, you're basically in that movie where you've got an absolutely insane composer who's like screaming at you and making you play drums till your hands bleed, and shit's crazy, and you're trying to adapt. And it's like jazz music, and there's just constant changes, and it's impossibly hard. Or the moment you get back to the trunk of your build, it's playing that Mary Had a Little Lamb on the piano, which you memorize when you're 4 years old and is really friggin' easy, so we want to always try to accept the fact that we've got very severe limitations, especially as a Terran player, mechanically very hard race. We want to make it as easy for ourselves so that we can focus on the tactics and the strategy and all those other things. We don't want to be like, oh, I think maybe it would be better to just totally change the order of my barracks, my command center, my gases, because I think it might be 2% more efficient, because you're going to execute 30% worse, and it's just going to make your life really difficult.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All
right, so that's a big rant about Terran learning, which I think is fine. Let's very quickly check your mechanics.
Research.
You said you use control group stealing, you use 4 camera locations consistently, you're trying to learn a 5th. Beautiful. You love Shift D selection. You use grid hotkeys with a couple custom. Okay, mechanically, super awesome. I don't need to tell you anything mechanically. I love what you're doing there. Let me check real quickly. What's your is your command centers and barracks actually on 7 or 8, or are you on custom keys for those?
I've got my mouse buttons. So back mouse button is command center, forward is production.
Beautiful. I like it. That's really cool. I especially like those because if you're selecting production, you're doing it with your mouse hand, and then you're producing with your keyboard hand. So
yeah, I could never go back to, if I'm missing my mouse, I just can't play the game. It's
oh yeah, it makes it, it's that deep muscle memory, man. It's a big investment to get rid of that, to relearn. Mechanically, that's beautiful. Looking at it, it's great. Awesome. Okay, let's talk TvP. This is good. Sometimes there's a big glaring issue where I look at it and I say, look, you're at Diamond 2. You're not using control groups for your army. Yeah. If you want to play more than 2 base, you need to learn control groups and we need to scratch everything else and go for that. For you, we don't have that limitation because you're using good mechanics. It looks like you're also using depot builder concept. So those 2 SCVs, they're just going to keep building depots more or less till you're maxed, right?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Dude, this makes me really happy. Your production's in neat rows. One problem with your production is your left row of barracks should be 1 space to the left. You should always leave 2 spaces so that tanks and Thors can get in and out of your buildings. As it is, you can't get any 2-space units in or out of your base. So if you always leave a double space gap, so essentially, I guess that's 4 spaces, right? 2 for the add-ons, 2 for the units to walk past.
Yeah. Okay.
The other thing here is that because your barracks is right up against the cliff, it's a little hard to get down into the corner of your main, say if there's a warp prism or something there. It's a bit hard to rotate between. So I personally would probably put those barracks a little further down, but it's relatively minor. I like that your production's nice and centered and pretty well organized. All right, so let's go back. Let's look at the build order. Let's talk about it a little bit. So you said you use a reactor Hellion build here in TvP.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just kind of like a placeholder build. I just didn't know a TvP build, so I just kind of, I don't know, didn't feel like going into a custom game learning one. Although, is the standard the Widowmine drop?
Yeah, you can do literally anything though. I don't do the Widowmine drop into just 3 racks, build 3rd command center while doing push. You can do that. It's the most cookie cutter standard build. Basically, the thing it lacks is the ability to hard punish a Protoss who's just a greedy piece of shit, right? Okay. You can defend a Widowmine drop with like 3 units or 2 units even. You can defend it literally with just workers if the Terran player doesn't, micro the Widowmines really well and burrow and unburrow and do all this fancy redropping. Yeah. So the problem there is if your opponent just builds a 3rd Nexus and like makes 2 forges and just chronos probes to 50, 60 and then makes a ton of units, they'll just win the game with 0 skill and just being a greedy piece of shit. So whilst that's okay at pro level, because like that's such a gamble to do what the Protoss did there, for us, that's not something we have to lock ourselves into. It really comes down to what style do we want to get good at. Now, Hellion opening slows down our add-ons a lot because Hellions are very mineral heavy, okay? So mineral heavy slows down extra racks, right? And 2nd and 3rd racks is basically what leads directly into stim shields, bio, is what leads into your proper push, right? So it's more heavy on the harassment, right? More of a commitment to harassment, but it also demands more response, right? More respect and response from TOS, okay? So if they don't have a wall off at the front, often they just get completely screwed, right? Yeah. And it's something we can learn. Scenarios where we see a Protoss as being really careful, we just build 2 Hellions and then we like just transition into our macro and just like try to deny the 3rd base with the Reaper and then the Hellions or whatever we end up going with. For now, looks like you're going Marine first. So talk me through this opening. It's a barracks, then gas geyser, right?
Yeah, it's Rex first into a Marine so that you can afford a factory and then reactor, and the reactor and factory finish around the same time.
So ultimately safe kind of opening, right? Yeah. Because what time do you start your bunker? Is it always the same time? Because you're not SCV scouting, so I imagine you always start it like really early, right?
I started halfway through the command center, I think. Whenever I've got the minerals for it early.
Okay, so it's factory reactor.
I think I do the 20 supply depot before the bunker. I'm not sure if that's proper, but that's what I've been doing.
I mean the bunker's a little late, I would say, but I think it's okay. think bunker positioning is okay. Like, if someone's really fast with it and you get punished, fix it. Otherwise, don't worry about it. I think it's fine.
Yeah, he gets here right as it's finishing.
So as long as we start the orbital, we're good. Starport. Tech lab on the barracks.
I made way too many Hellions this game, too. Like...
Yeah, if you commit to more than 4, it's a big commitment. Now, so just talk me through the opening. Let's stop looking at the game. That's eye candy for the stream viewers for now. Let's look at the document, okay? So basically, I'm going to do cliff notes of your build, okay?
Alrighty.
So this is a Marine first. So it's Rax Gas, Marine, Factory, Reactor, Hellion Expand, okay? It's a Hellion Expand. Bunker at CC 50%. Speed up if needed. I think with this build you're quite vulnerable to a proxy gateway. But if that build's not in the meta, we don't need to worry about it. That's something that generally you want an SCV scout or a blind quicker bunker to deal with. What's the standard though? You go, is there a standard with the Hellion count? I want you to start writing some stuff down now here where I was writing in the document. Do we want 4 Hellions as standard? 6? Do we go for a drop with it? Do we pair up, do we follow up with a Liberator from the starport? Do we always go straight to Banshees? What do you think you should do here? Write it out. And if you're not sure, just think out loud with me and let's figure out what we want to do.
Well, I don't normally have a standard. It's pretty much whatever I feel like doing. Sometimes I'll do 4 and sometimes I'll do 6, but I never do 2 Hellions. I think normally I do 6 because a couple of them die off, and then I like to have 4 just to one-shot workers and get a lot of damage done. I follow it up with... I've been following it up with Banshees recently, but before I was just dropping a reactor and doing a medevac, or just medevac production. I think 4 is a good count.
I think we can have different branches of it we can work on, but what we want to do now is we want to define the trunk, the baseline, right? That build we just go to as default, and especially when you're defining the build, you'll do that pretty much every game until it's clockwork, and then you can start working on your branches. You can be like, oh, you know what? If I had 2 more Hellions in the current meta, I think I'd kill so many more probes. Let's define the 6 Hellion branch. It's still going to be the exact same opening. It's going to be a very small change up to the build order overall, 2 more Hellions, right? Yeah. But you want to really stick with the trunk and get the trunk down solid first, and then we can work on that. So, just choose. Doesn't matter. Whatever floats your boat. 6, 4, 8, 4? Okay, so write that out. 4 Hellions. And do we want to go Banshee as standard, or Liberator, or Medevac? It has to be one of those. It can't be straight up into Reactor, because in that case, there's no point actually building a starport. I mean, okay, I guess the alternate there would be straight into a quicker second barracks, actually, if we did it that way, which would be more of like a 2-base push timing being super important, but not as much pressure. So, I mean, what do you like the idea of going Liberator, Medevac, Banshee, or faster second barracks?
Let's do Banshee.
Okay. So write that down there, just as another dot point. This is not like a super neat build order. Obviously, we're not writing every detail. It's just cliff notes for now. It's just kind of like, let's define the key units and pressure and some details, then we can go back and turn it into a real nice write-up after. So 4 Hellions, Banshee follow-up. Normally, what, 2 Banshees?
Yeah, 2 Banshees.
Okay, 2 Banshees. Okay, cool. So you don't have a Reaper. So those Hellions, I imagine we just try to dive straight across the map. So what we can do is we can do a little indented point. So if you go like, I'll show you. We just tab. So you can write there. What you want to do with those Hellions. Just write like a note. Dive natural. And then if there's a wall, so you can make another point. So enter. You can write if wall. What do? We deny the third?
Yeah.
Okay.
Deny the third.
Cool. So dive natural. If they have a wall, we deny the third. And then there is, of course, the Banshee follow-up. Okay. Those Banshees, do we normally wait for 1 or go straight in with the first one as soon as Cloak's done? Or do we wait for 2 Banshees to group up? So maybe just write a few subpoints under the Banshee follow-up on exactly what we want that Banshee to do. So it could be like, oh, if they've got Phoenix, we hide and wait for 2 or something. Or, you know, if there's a Robo, we hide, whatever the rule is that you like. Because this is tactics, and this can shift game to game. We're just defining it for now. But obviously you would end up with multiple options that you can change based on the meta or what's happening in the game.
Yeah. I normally wait for 2 Banshees, so one-shot the workers if they have shield batteries and whatnot.
Cool.
But, yeah.
So you could say wait for 2 Banshees, rally above their to edge of map or something like that, right? Like you've done in this game, right? Okay. So a couple things. We've got a bunker with like 1 Marine in it, right? And then our barracks is building a tech lab for the starport. So what if they just go Stargate and an Oracle flies into our base?
Then we're sad.
And then we go, well, okay, your Oracle came to our side of the map. You didn't respect our Hellions. We dive in and we should kill more than the Oracle, actually. Unless they have a wall, in which case we are dead. So, you know, we actually, it's a valid decision. We could be like, I'm just going to take that gamble. And we could just do that. And more often than not, even if the Oracle dives in and does damage, your 4 Hellions will do more damage on their side of the map because that Oracle is not there with full energy to deal with them. You know what? That might actually work for us, but let's try to think this one through. So if we go back in this build order, for instance, I mean, building Marines one at a time doesn't strike me as something that's ever going to be able to deal with that. So without a Reaper and without an SCV Scout, I have no idea what we're up against.
So how
Worries
fast
me a little bit.
can the Oracle get to your natural on most maps in the map pool?
Or natural or main, either one, pretty similar. Take a guess. Take a guess, first of all. I don't actually know. I would just be guessing as well.
I would probably guess like 420.
And this is after an expand, you're assuming, right? You're assuming not.
Yeah.
Obviously, if
Not
it's
one base,
proxied
or
or if it's proxy one base, even faster, it can be in there at, 240 or something ridiculous. It could be in here like now, basically. But normally, I would probably say like what do we think? Chat. Someone in chat probably knows 345, something like that. Maybe 345. About 345. I would guess. So
not quite enough time to get 2 Widow Mines out after 4 Hellions, or.
I mean, you definitely could if we had these other 2 Hellions started immediately, which we didn't do this game. But if we'd done that, right? Obviously, our mining's interrupted. We've started those. You might have those 2 mines, then you just put 1 in each mineral line, right? That could work. All right, maybe we should make that the default. So 4 Hellions into 2 mines. Add that there to the build.
Command center upgrade complete.
You can just write 4 Hellions. Here, we can do it like this. I'll use my shorthand for now. Sorry.
Okay. No.
2 mines, 1 in each base. So even if the Oracle gets in a little bit ahead of time, you're just stopping catastrophic damage happening, right? With the Widow Mines. You can always just pull SCVs to it. Maybe they deny a barracks building. It's like, it's not the end of the world, right? It's the end of the world if they've got free reign over the mineral line. It's also something where often players will really respect it if they know you're going Hellions. They'll just stay at home. So here was an interesting scenario in this game where you definitely struggled a little bit to clear these units out. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, if someone's ever in your face a little bit too much or trying to distract you, I think we definitely should consider just diving across the map with our Hellions. That's actually something. So we can write some general notes here as well.
That probably would have done more damage.
If they're screwing around, diving an Oracle, diving Adepts, Stalkers, at any point where it become, at some point, it's always crucial to just dive across the map and often end the game. Like if they've lost an Adept or 2, if they've lost 2 Gateway units, like they can't really deal with those Hellions. Like these are very crisply timed Hellions if you do this properly. So it should work out real well. Okay, so we've come up with an option to deal with the Stargate. We've talked about 4 Hellions into a Banshee. Okay, we're building 2 mines after those 4 Hellions. In this game, you then built a tech lab on the barracks and started STEM, and then you started 2 more barracks. So, what do we want to do next with this build? Oh, hello? Hello? Did my internet die? Can chat still hear me? Oh, I think his internet died. Went outside, was too smoky, I'm back inside. Oh, that sucks, Dot. So it looks like my student disconnected. Yeah, I hope you guys are having fun. Unfortunately, it looks like Zexile's internet just broke. What time did we start this coaching, by the way? We started call 5 minutes early. Okay, cool. So we should get out of here, not too late. All right, while we're waiting for him to get back on, let me just check my little... I think we'll try and do flow files tomorrow. What do we got on for tomorrow, guys? Let me check my calendar real quick. So we will be streaming tomorrow. We got flow files. Stream. Yeah, we'll try to do flow files. So we'll try to, once again, start normal stream time tomorrow. Then I won't be doing Friday. But we will be actually streaming our first D&D session. I will be doing it on my laptop, so hopefully my mic's not too shit. And I definitely won't be dressed up or anything, but we'll have some fun with it. And then we got Saturday. We will try to stream. We want to do the pig show. Awesome. Okay, cool.
All right, sorry about that.
No worries, mate. Comcast?
The computer crashed.
Oh, it was a computer. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to get in on the North American Comcast Cares memes, but unfortunately.
Oh, yeah.
Is it Comcast or are you with the other one? Verizon or whatever it's called?
I have no idea, to be honest.
Don't even know. My man. Nice.
I don't know.
That's usually a good sign. If you don't know who your internet service provider is, you're not, shouting at them regularly or complaining about them, that's usually a good sign.
Fair enough.
I guess you're in Canada, right? So maybe it's not the same companies as America?
Yeah.
Okay. I imagine there's like big crossover between Canadian and American companies, but not quite exactly the same ways. Just very quickly, organizing something here. All right. You dropped from the replay or are you still in it?
No, I dropped from the replay.
All
I'm
right.
just getting back on.
Yeah, get back on and rehost it.
Okay.
I'll hop out.
It's just taking its sweet time.
No worries, man. All right. I was just organizing some stuff. Tomorrow I'm going to be doing some coaching at the same time to finish the stream. Before that, we'll be doing a bit of Florencio files. And other than that, just more ladder. Hopefully getting some of my builds a little bit more refined and defined so that I stop being a lazy boy and getting my butt kicked on the ladder. Thank you very much, Jack Cirque, for the 13-month resub. Awesome. Think we're doing good. All right. So we've got your document up as well. Make sure you get that up if it's not already. It's decided to log me out. Okay. That's great. Has the internet died on this computer? I know you can still hear me because that computer's good. That one's not dying at all, but I think the internet just died for a second on my PC. So I just reopened StarCraft myself. Tech issues abound today, man.
Yeah. Alrighty.
All right.
All right, I'm back on.
Cool. Where'd it go?
Same chat channel?
Yeah, I'll be there in a sec. Sorry, it took me a little bit.
Okay.
I was accidentally looking at a different menu than I needed to. There we go. I had to Control-Alt-Delete it to let me reopen StarCraft because even though I'd closed the game, it thought the process was still running.
Oh, yeah.
All right, sweet as. Logging in. There we go. Yeah, so one of the best parts about playing this sort of styles is it's just going to be about us defining how the build works. We're going to accept, especially with like the whole trunk approach to let's execute well and consistently, there will be things that counter you. And we will focus not on changing the entire structure of the build. So I'll make you lead here again. Same replay or a different one, up to you. It doesn't matter. The important thing is going to be having some consistency with the core of the build so that we can then branch off into doing good reactions to things. but we want them to be consistent, like from a consistent base, right? That's like the whole thing with reactions being consistent, especially as you're getting closer to masters now. The more consistent you're opening the situation you bounce into those reactions from, it means the results will either always work or always not work a bit more, right? So you can also learn faster. Big problem players who are diamond forever in quotation marks have is because they kind of play a little bit loose. They don't really write any notes. They don't organize it. Is they end up stuck at this point where they're like, man, I can't get to the next stage. And often what I kind of identify as the diamond conundrum, which is just a silly way. Obviously, everyone has different strengths and weaknesses as a player, but basically it's you can't draw as good conclusions because too many things change game to game. So sometimes something works, sometimes it doesn't. It's too hard to like learn what we should be doing and what we're doing wrong, what we're doing right. And it becomes a bit more frustrating for us as a player to figure it out. Whereas we want to kind of up our baseline to a point where it's like way better than what we were doing before. Cut back our reacting and our overreacting. And then start to work the reactions back in, but in a more organized way where it's like real specific. Like, no, I react with exactly this to this scenario and so on and so forth. Cool. Little point. Okay, so if someone dives the adepts like this, let's do something. If they dive adepts, always pull 4 SCVs and Marine with your first 2 Hellions and enjoy the free kills. Now, what's really great about that, like this little scenario you did, you spent a bunch of micro and APM where you weren't spending your money as well as you could have been. Yeah. And all you did was lose a Hellion. And now they're going to regen shields. So play that back real quick and look at this. Imagine if we pulled the Marine, even if it was just these 2 SCVs, preferably we'd grab a few more SCVs already pulled over, throw it on a control group, lower the depots, come on down, empty the bunker, and you just A-move it all. And then all you need to focus on is pulling back the weak SCVs. Both adepts shoot an SCV, click it, pull it away. Click it, click the next one they shoot, pull it away, bam, both adepts are dead, and all they've done is damage some SCVs. Maybe they kill 1 or 2, but your Hellions are alive, they're healthy, which is the important thing. If you lose the Marine, doesn't matter, right? As long as the Hellions are alive, right? A move, only focus on pulling back SCVs. It makes your life a lot easier there. Otherwise, this gets a bit stressful. We're going to start repairing, and this delays our Hellions. So imagine if we killed those 2 adepts. Even if he dived in with the Stalker, that would just be silly, right? We'd just be like, oh, well, I've got like 4 Hellions now, right? So we should have had 4 Hellions by now. And then we'd kill the Stalker, and then we'd go across the map with 6 Hellions at this 4-minute mark. We'd get there at 4:15, 4:20. And let's look at what he's got. An Oracle and a Stalker warping in. We'd kill 30 probes. Oh, wait, he doesn't even have 30. He has 24. Game over. Right there. Checkmate. So that's cool. Quick little reaction there. Don't let those adepts fuck with you. Anytime they commit with their early gateway units, especially adepts into Hellions, we should get a big fat grin on our face. Happy to lose a couple of SCVs. Preferably none, but if we lose a couple, not the end of the world. You kill those adepts, he's got nothing to gun down those Hellions on his side of the map. He's screwed. Right. Awesome, man.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You want to go into 3 barracks, standard biomine from what I see in this game. Do we want to do a 2 base 5 barracks push as the standard? Do we want to go to a 3rd command center first as the standard? Do we want to try to play up into range libs or mass siege tanks with our bio? What floats your boat? We want to choose one as our baseline.
Honestly, I'm a little conflicted because I feel like I should be going into 3cc and macro because that's what I'm, I think, worse at. But I don't enjoy playing against Disruptor High Templar. It's not very fun. So we'll do the macro side. It'll be good to get those skills up. The 3cc follow-up.
My inclination is actually to say 2 base for now.
2 base?
And 3 base a few weeks or a month from now.
Okay.
So the idea behind that is I want to soften the learning curve for you. Okay. Because at the moment, you're very loose with your play. Things aren't well defined, and there's not a lot of rhythm to like exactly when and where you're looking at things because the build order is a bit variable, right?
Yeah.
So like here, for instance, this is a good Hellion run by, but if we were actually more experienced with a consistent build order, we would have bounced home and dropped our 4th and 5th barracks and an engineering bay, or a 3rd command center and a double engineering bay and 2 gases, and queued up way more SCVs and units, and then we would have committed our APM to the Hellion dive. Instead, we dove in at like 700 minerals. And even though we're macroing off our control groups, we're floating a ton of money. So any damage we do, it's kind of like lessened the impact of it because we're mismacroing so poorly, right?
Yeah.
And that's like a real common thing that happens. So by giving you a 2 base all in, what we're doing, right, is you can plug and play the exact same opening into a 3 command center build, and all the work you do on making your opening tight is going to carry over, right?
Okay.
The difference is you're getting an immediate feedback loop and shorter games, which means more repetitions, right? We just want more reps on that barbell of playing TvP opening to be more consistent, right? And then 2-bait, just follow up for 1 month or so, then swap into the 3cc version. So what's the difference there? 2-base is literally just, and you see I'm writing it in the document,
Yeah.
4th and 5th racks. Maybe we'd go, I don't know. I'm just going to make one up. Let's say we go 3rd and 4th gas on the natural, 4th and 5th barracks, single eBay, just +1 attack, right? And we're just rallying bio off 5 barracks on 2 base and going.
All right.
The 3 base, on the other hand, would be something like, 3rd CC, and then a 3rd gas on natural. You know, you get your 3rd gas, and then 4th and 5th barracks. Or, you know, or maybe it might be 3rd gas, then double eBay. Let's say 3rd and 4th gas. I don't know. I try to batch those up until we're super high level, and there's a really good reason for staggering them.
Okay.
It's better to have like 100 extra gas and actually be consistent with it than to always forget, because we're trying to do gases at fancy different timings. Because if you think about it, you don't have to just put guys on gas once. You have to do it twice. So you need to go back, build a gas, go back, put guys on gas, go back, build a gas, go back, put guys on gas. So you're doubling a really arduous task, right? You go from 2 to 4 times you've got to look at your base. That's a massive pain. It's much better to just drop 2 gases next to each other at once, come back 30 seconds later, throw dudes on gas, bam, it's done. So whenever we can batch that stuff up, same thing, don't ever add 1 barracks at a time. Wait until you get the money and drop all 2 or 3 barracks at once, so you can come back 40 seconds later and drop 3 add-ons at once. Otherwise, you'll end up with the barracks with no add-ons on them for ages, and that's a real pain in the ass. So always try to batch that up, make it nice and organized. Which you're pretty good at in this game. It's just, I feel like the order needs to be a little bit more honed down. Yeah, and then we'd go 4th and 5th gas, 5th racks, and then whatever you want to do next with the 3 base. So you just kind of shift this steps around, but 2nd and 3rd barracks is going to be standard, I imagine. So you talked about, okay, we can do 2 base initially, but do we just want to do bio mine or bio tank for a 2 base push? You can easily swap the factory around for a macro style, but do you find yourself playing against like charge lots most of the time?
Yeah.
So we probably want widow mines then, right?
Yeah.
Tanks are a bit better versus Colossus, but the mines can still work versus Colossus, especially if we start hitting multiple bases or something like that, or you get in between the Colossus army and one of their bases. They got to attack it through the mines and they get screwed. Awesome. Yeah. Okay, so with your build order, we wrote some cliff notes there. Let's write a next little order, okay?
Right.
So what we want to do here, there's a bunch of things. We want, basically, I guess all that stuff I wrote, right? Oh, no, we want, okay, that stuff, but where does the 2nd and 3rd barracks go? I guess that's going to be earlier, right? So, okay, so yeah, we don't need that stuff. We just need, how do we define when the 2nd and 3rd barracks goes down? And for me personally, I'm thinking we'd probably swap this 1st barracks swap back onto the reactor, but maybe we'd build another barracks on it. Normally 2 tech labs, 1 reactor is standard. I mean, what do you think we should do here for these next 2 barracks? And what about this 1st barracks? Like, do you like to just go 1 tech lab, 2 reactors and go very marine heavy?
I tend to do it a lot, and then a Colossus shows up and it's not fun. But I've been trying to get into more Marauder production recently, but yeah, normally I do go more reactor heavy. I love my Marines.
I think if we were going tanks, I'd be more down with that. Marines are good versus Zealots, but like they're so fragile, right? So yeah. I think we'll just stick with the standard 2 tech labs, 1 reactor, just because that's the most cookie cutter. Like you'll see every Pro Terran do that, unless they're doing a tank all in. Then they'll go marine or mass tank macro style. They'll also, either of those, they're happy to go mass reactor Marines. You see Eutherm will do that sometimes and some other Terrans. All right. But when are you going to define those? So say you're going for, so it's 4 Hellions, 2 Widow Mines. Then you're swapping the barracks, the factory off and going to build a reactor for itself. So, I mean, I guess we'd probably be swapping that somewhere around this like 5-minute mark is probably when it would normally go down. Obviously, it's just kind of when you have the money. But what should we do with this barracks in the meantime? Do we want to keep building Marines here? After we swap off that tech lab, should we build a reactor straight away with it? Another reactor? Should we build this tech lab immediately? And just... I'm a big fan of going reactor on the first barracks. So the second and third barracks can finish at the same time, both get tech labs, and then make upgrades. But we could already have upgrades ready for them. So something you could do if you're not too focused on building Marines here. This barracks could build a tech lab, lift off, build another tech lab, and then swap onto the reactor as the factory leaves it.
Yeah.
And you could build the 2 second and third barracks immediately on tech labs that are already there. And that would be a really good way to kickstart those upgrades. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I like that idea. I think that sounds good.
Okay, cool. So let's start writing some more detailed notes here. It's not going to be in the most order, but let's go barracks. So I always like to do a sub point for each production facility if I'm writing out an organized build. So barracks is Marine. And then it's going to be reactor. Swap off. And build tech lab. Yeah. Repeat for 2 more tech labs, right?
Yeah.
2 more tech labs. Swap back onto factory's reactor, right? Okay. Second plus third racks on the tech labs that the racks evacuated. Could be really nice. Now you will have 1 extra tech lab hanging around from that starport, because that's going to swap off kind of late-ish, right? Generally. So we're just going to have an extra tech lab hanging around, which we can build a 4th or 5th barracks on. That's fine. Starport will swap off after 2 Banshees and build a reactor, right?
Yeah.
So under the Banshee, notice we already have those sub points. Swap off, build reactor. Awesome. Factory. 4 Hellions. So we can write this as the factory points now, right? So let me just indent that. 4 Hellions, 2 mines. Let's take these notes. We'll do it like this. So those notes on the Hellions, I'm going to put down the bottom as general notes.
Okay.
So Hellions, always dive natural. 4 Hellions always dive natural. If walled, deny third base. Look for future run bys. Awesome. All right, so now we've got more of a build order right up there. Your second and third barracks on the tech labs that the barracks evacuated. What do you think about this 2 base order? Do you think we need a 3rd and a 4th gas straight away before going 4th and 5th barracks? Should we get the engineering bay earlier? What do you like about that? Reorder those 2 base to however you like. I don't actually know what would work best with this build order. I don't do Hellion-Banshee versus Protoss. So it's something you can always adapt. But for now, just go with your instincts and cut and paste 3rd, 4th gas, 4th, 5th racks, single eBay. See where I've got highlighted?
Yeah.
And reorder that as you think it needs. What do you reckon?
Well, DTs are very popular. I've been trying to get the single eBay out as fast as possible to get like missile turrets and stuff, because I've been versing DTs basically every Protoss game for the most part. And it's really annoying to deal with because I drop mules very consistently. I find that I never have energy for scans, and I just died at Dark Templar. So I'd feel safest, I think, dropping the engineering bay soon-ish, but I'm not sure if you should do that before the 4th and 5th racks.
I mean, if they're rushing DTs, they're gonna have a big trouble both hiding that and walling off. So if your Hellions are crisply timed with your build, I think you should be able to develop a tell. Right? I think we should be able to develop some sort of way where we sniff that something's going on. So let's go down to our, below our notes, we can write, okay, or in our notes. So spotting DTs. If we get there, basically, are there any tells you can think off the top of your head when your Hellions arrive? So if we go in at like, normally you'd get to their base at about 4 minutes, I believe, with 4 Hellions. Probably about 350, 345 if you're really tight.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably get there 345 every game. So if we got there at this point, obviously this is not a great replay to look at because he did a weird 1-base 2-gate. But like, what do you? I mean, for me, I usually a fast ET build. I'm just like, there's just not as many units as normal. There might be a Twilight, but they've built multiple Adepts. That's a big tell for me. So, I mean, you might find people still just go Blink, but they go 2 Adepts first. You might find all sorts of things. So you got to kind of come up with the tells for what people are doing at your level. But and in your meta, people just there's weird patterns that arise for a few weeks or months and then disappear, right? So Twilight plus Adepts could equal DTs. Just not enough stuff. That's something where I kind of freak out. And what about the actual reaction, right? So what about the reaction to DTs? So if you go in, you see there's a DT shrine 3/4 of the way done. At this point, about 4 minutes. What? Obviously we drop an engineering bay. I would probably try to wall off with that engineering bay at the front. With the depots and the bunker, just use it as part of the wall so they can't run in. What do you reckon?
Yeah, that sounds good.
eBay as part of wall.
Save energy for scans. I'm really bad at doing that.
1 turret on each base. Stop dropping mules. I've done that many times. Drop mules, even though I know DTs are coming.
Yeah.
Save energy for mules, and then also check for prism in the main, right? So like spotting depot or something like that. Check for prism in main. Spotting depot. Maybe you like to have a Viking
Oh yeah.
after the 2 Banshees. Maybe you're like, oh, just add a Viking straight away. So okay, so we can go Viking immediately after 2nd Banshee to guard main from prism.
Should that be in the core build, or are we just doing that as a reaction for DTs?
Just as a reaction. Because we don't want to rush engineering bay because you're already rushing lots of Hellions, which delays your 2nd and 3rd barracks. If we go in engineering bay before our 2nd and 3rd barracks as default, your build is just really bad. Because you're never going to hit your push timing. Oh, the Viking, you mean?
Yeah.
No. Once your reactor's done, if you really like it, you can. But because we're doing it, you'll have to come up with your own rule on that. Because with a 3-base build, I really like someone just getting a Viking and just being like, cool, I've always got a Viking patrolling the main to be ready to clear up any prism that arrives for the rest of the game. Like, that makes me really happy. But you don't need that super fast. And if you're doing a 2-base all-in, you don't really want to do that. Because, like, you're kind of going all in anyway. We don't really want to build an expensive tech unit just to leave it home in case a drop comes. Because often they're just going to have everything at home. You're hitting so fast. It's kind of a niche situation where they're both trying to hit, say, your main with a few Zealot Warpins and defend at home. You know, you should be able to technically deal with it with just your rally and, like, having good vision in your main. So you just quickly change your rally point and deal with it. So I wouldn't put that as a standard part of the build until you're doing a big 3-base macro transition.
All right, sounds good.
Awesome. All right. We've got a reaction to DTs down. But what do you think about that 2-base order then? Should we do the eBay that late after the 4th and 5th barracks? Probably want to do it a bit earlier than that normally, I would imagine. But, I mean, does the 3rd and 4th gas, do you think you'll need it that fast? Do you think you can go up to 5 barracks first? I mean, what do you think about this order that I've written in the document?
I'm honestly not 100% sure. Probably, I think the order's good. Yeah, I think it's fine. I'm not sure if you need that much gas early. I honestly have no idea. So,
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe you don't. In this game, even though you're building Banshee, I mean, your Banshee production's really slow, but you still don't really have anything you're spending gas on until those upgrades all start, right?
yeah.
So move it. Go with your instincts. So this is the important thing. This practices us visualizing, right? So grab the 3rd and 4th gas from that little build list, cut it, Control X, and you can paste that down as like the last step even if you want. And then in game, if you find that's too late, maybe you put it earlier. And this is something you always want to be doing. You're like, oh, I always have 500 gas for no reason really early in my build. let's change that gas timing. You know, let's move that down. Do you want the eBay before the 4th and 5th barracks to make sure we get the +1 on time for the push?
I think if you put the eBay before the 2 barracks and then you start stim when the barracks finish.
These are the 4th and 5th barracks, remember? So these are like the real on top of the barracks. This is after you've gone up to 3 barracks.
Okay, I see. Then maybe engineering. Maybe the engineering bay first.
Yeah, go for it. The thing is, this isn't set in stone. You're going to come back. I want this is a living document when you're first learning the build, especially because I don't know this build off the top of my head, right? I'm figuring it out with you. But this process of what we're doing here is what I want you to try to do. Even if it's just 10 minutes at the end of a day of ladder, you play 5 games. Ooh, let's watch that TvP replay. Did I execute it right? First of all, just check for those details. Oh, I could have remembered to do this, you know, follow the build. But there might be a point where you're like, oh, I did this correctly, and I've just got too much gas, or I've just got too much of this, or this isn't timing out. Let's get the engineering bay faster. Or let's get the engineering bay slower. Let's move these gases. These little adjustments, really nice. They're just really nice things for you to make, but it also teaches you that it's all fluid, right? And the more consistent you get, the easier you can draw these conclusions. Where you're like, oh, 2 games in a row, I just had way too much gas. Let's just always get the gas later at this point. And all you need there is an order for these things. Notice these don't have a supply count. It's literally just like, you might actually have more of a tight marker for your 2nd and 3rd barracks, right? We might come up with like it should be right around the time our Banshees go in. Or like, I don't know, maybe it's like cue the 2nd Banshee and start the 2nd and 3rd barrack. There'll be some way you can chain this to something else, okay? So I want you, what is this chain to make sure we remember it? Starting 2nd Banshee, etc. And anytime you notice a mistake in a replay, that's one of the best things to do. I've coached a few players recently, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah. They're like, oh, I got supply blocked on 80 supply. Like, I got to remember that 72 supply depot. And I was like, oh, is that how we're going to remember it? And they're like, yeah, I remember things by supply. And that's great for the first 30, 40 supply of the game. Past that point, supply is worthless. Like, you don't have the time to be looking at your supply constantly. You've got too much shit to do, right? And no one remembers to look at the supply at 72 and put down a depot. It just doesn't happen, right? Instead, it should be like, oh, I should remember to just nonstop build depots as part of my system ever since my 40 supply depot. And then once I get my 2nd and 3rd barracks add-on started, I should send another depot builder to join him because we're about to have non-stop 3 barracks production. You know, there's some way you can chain that together. This is just off the top of my head. I don't know if those are correct ways to chain it. That might be slightly mistimed. The important thing is anytime you got a consistent macro error, chain that reminder to something else that you're really constantly remembering and consistently doing. Like, adding the add-ons on the 2nd and 3rd barracks, or starting a Banshee anytime. And then you create these little sequences. It's almost like a little macro set play where it's like bam, 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 and you hit 3 things all in a row. And it's like a little section of a song. It's like playing the chorus or something like that kind of sticks in your brain a lot easier. So that's going to be really huge. We've talked about the build order here. You can continue to refine it and make sure, you know, things are on point. A little point here. How do you remember to start your supply depots? Early on your command center gives you a lot of supply. This early game was messy, so it's not the most clean scenario. Do you have any marker for when you start the supply depots? Is it a supply count? When do you start your next depot from this point in the game?
From this point, 38 supply-ish. I don't know. This is actually the supply that I get supply capped on all the time.
Yeah, it's 46 because you haven't built a depot in a long time, so everyone gets supply blocked here.
Yeah.
The command center.
46.
Yeah. So I'll give you a little cheat, which I use every game, every terrain build order. The SCV that finishes building the starport goes to build the depot, and that's going to time out real nice. This game, your Hellions were late and your SCV production was inconsistent. If you'd queued those 2 Hellions, kept building SCVs,
it would have been.
You can see,
the right supply.
yeah, by the time, because the SCV might idle for a few seconds down there, right? It's down there, it's waiting. Oh, put depot down. About now, you would be at 37, 38 supply. So it's a nice way to remember it with all your 111 builds. Is Starport SCV does that.
Command center upgrade complete.
Starport SCV queues to natural. Starpot SCV, I wrote. To start depot building the wall non-stop. Awesome. So that's good. Yeah, a lot of people forget that, myself included. So it wasn't until I reminded myself, just Starport SCV always goes to build the depots. You'll actually see me in my TvP with my gas first opening that I've been doing a lot lately because no one's proxy gating. I don't do that. I actually get a second barracks with that SCV and the depot slightly later, about 40, 41. And there's a very slight supply block built into the build order, but that's a conscious decision. That's the one time I will actually break that rule because it's part of that opening build order, and I like getting that second barracks started right on time. Awesome, man. But that's a cool one because that carries across all matchups. So that actually is a really nice habit to build. You've got the builds, we've got the order. Let's talk a little bit more big picture theory crafting. I know this has been a very theory focused session, but that's just, we'll get into a lot more nitty gritty in the next one because we spent so much talking about how to learn and analyzing these replays and how to refine the build order. But let's talk about the actual 2-base push. So theory crafting, how do you visualize that work? You got bio, you got mines. One thing we could do is that 4th and 5th racks. So I'm going to write here option. 4th and 5th racks, skip add-ons, and just build Marines one at a time. Just to strengthen push, right? And we might even be able to skip 4th gas and just go 3 gas, since we save 75 gas here, right? On add-ons. Yeah. Hits harder, but has less longevity, right? Okay, other than that, it's bio, it's mines, medevacs. Do you have any sort of marker that pops into your head for when you would start trying to push?
When I get my medevacs out, and not really a specific marker, but 2 to 4 medevacs, I guess.
Okay, so 2 medevacs. Stim, shields, and +1. Or stim and shields, right?
Yeah.
Stim, shields, and +1. If we can line up all of those, that's how we know our build's tight, right? You're like, oh, I've got my first 2 medevacs coming out. Stim and shields is finishing as I leave my base. I got more medevacs rallying, more. I've got 2 or 4 mines. We've got more mines, more bio rallying. Let's go. Let's go get the position and go for it. So I think that's awesome. So 2 medevacs, stim, shields, and +1. So guess what? Benchmark. Benchmark that move, that push. So if you think about that, if you benchmark this, we always want to benchmark when you hit your opponent. So if you look at this scenario, I'm going to write it down in the document. I want you to look at the game. Detail this push for me. So go through all the metrics that you might write down, and I'll write it down for you.
Well, I should be hitting the 3rd base. I'm not going up a ramp, but
okay. But hit 3rd base. I mean, I think hitting the natural can actually be really good on some maps, right? Because especially if you're doing a 2-base all in. In this case, it's a bit different, but it just the timings and the unit count and all that sort of stuff is more important, right?
Okay.
Stuff we can compare any map, any situation.
Well, yeah. You probably want to drop a 3rd base as you're moving out if you have the money. In this game it was really late, but I'm not sure what time this would normally hit. It would probably be around 6.5 minutes, I'd guess.
Yeah, let's just benchmark this specific push as if this was a normal one. Just go through all the details that you would kind of record for yourself.
Okay.
Just so you could
I record the time that I'd move out, like from the natural, which was probably 8 minutes and 45 seconds or something like that.
I'm a big fan of just recording one when we move out or when we hit. I usually go for when we hit just to make sure I'm not dilly-dallying on the map, right? And because like that's when I really take the fight to my opponent. But some people prefer to do when they leave the base because some maps are bigger, so it's like a little more consistent. It's up to you. Do you want to do when you leave your base or when you hit? Because we don't really want to write down both. It's just too much information.
All right, let's do when we hit them.
Okay. When we
I am prone to just
to dilly-dally.
Anything on the map sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes we see just another 2 mines. Just another 2 mines, right? Like, or you're like, just wait a little bit. All right.
I was about to move out here, and I didn't realize. I forgot I didn't have medevacs yet, so I had to wait for those.
What's So all right. So let's benchmark this.
So this one was like 9 minutes and 15 seconds.
All right. So 9 minutes 15. Hit enemy natural.
With 2 medevacs, it looks like 6 mines. I left 2 or 1 in each mineral line, I think. I meant to, but
You left one in the main, not in the natural. So you've got,
okay.
yeah, I mean, you can just use your unit count as well, right? So,
Yeah.
so we got 915 hit enemy natural. So just read everything out to me. Or maybe
right.
just look at what you're actually hitting with, I guess is totally fine as well.
Okay, I'm hitting with 40 Marines and 6 Widow Mines and 3 medevacs.
How many
And
Marines?
We've got, or well, 40 bio Marines and Marauders. So that's 12 Marauders and 28 Marines.
12 Marauders, 28 Marines,
Yeah.
2 medevacs. How many mines was it?
6.
6 mines. Okay. And remember, what about the upgrades? What upgrades do we have? Do we have them all?
We don't have +1, but we've got stim and shields and concussive bells. Or do
Double check that upgrade tab.
we? No, we don't have shields.
Yep. The classic, man. That's my special. I mean, the fact that you got concussive and not combat shields, I'm like, oh no, I always forget concussive. Obviously, combat shields is the more important upgrade, though. So
Yeah.
we've got stim, concussive, and nothing else. No +1. Okay, cool. So this is awesome, right? Obviously, this is not a great timing, and it's a weird game, but it's still going to win you this game, right? I'm pretty sure you do win this game, right?
Yeah.
We did. Yeah. That was a bit closer than it needed to be, like you said, because of the ramp and not fighting with the Widow Mines. Yeah. But that's so helpful because now you can very quickly, every time you win a game, click rewind and just write down, okay, I hit 7 minutes 30. I had 4 mines, 2 medevacs, 16 Marines, 4 Marauders, whatever the numbers are. You write that all down and then you double check where my upgrades finish. The number of times you will realize you hit like 10 seconds before stim or combat shields finishes or something, or you completely forget concussive, or for some reason you're just 20 supply lower than you normally are. And that immediately gives you something like, wait. I thought I played well. Fudge. I need to go back and check what happened in this replay. Or you're like, no. I know I screwed up X, Y, Z. This confirms exactly how much I screwed up. I know I've got to fix my defense against an Oracle getting in my mineral line. I forgot my Widow Mines after the Hellions this game, and an Oracle killed 10 SCVs or something like that. But this benchmark is just going to be so useful because it gives you something, irrespective of how you execute the push, to look at. A lot of people want to just look at how they micro it. Check the game timer you're hitting at. Check the exact unit count. Check the upgrades.
Upgrade complete.
That's got to take precedence, right? Especially when you're first learning the build. Something you can improve at. Whether or not you win the game, I want you to just beat your previous benchmark. And you're not going to beat it every game, and you're going to hit a point pretty quickly where you can't consistently get much higher than it, right? But early on, just try to beat your benchmark. It's not about winning or losing. Let's hit the build in order until that build settles as a layer of muscle memory, and we know the order. Bam, get the 2nd and 3rd barracks. Bam, get the eBay. Bam, get the gas. Bam, get the 4th and 5th barracks. Hit the push. Oh, sweet, hit it right on 745. This was sick. Let's go. And then you can rinse and repeat, and you can feel really good and see that progression really obviously. As you get better at it, you can start looking at the tactics. Ooh, I want to siege this location. Ooh, I want to split a drop into the main while I hit the front so that it really screws with their multitasking and they can't land these force fields on the ramp so well because those force fields keep getting me. Come up with your own little rules and tactical adjustments, but we want to give you that solid base of let's just improve at this build. We've defined the build. Now it's time to refine it. Benchmarking is really going to help you track how well you're doing that.
Okay.
Awesome, man. Any game that pisses you off, any piece of advice I gave you that does not seem to be working or is counterintuitive, it just doesn't seem to make sense, there's probably a detail that's missed. Maybe I miscommunicated something. Maybe you misunderstood something. Maybe it works normally, but there's a weird meta happening, so we should change it. Write it down. Write it down, okay? Anytime you're frustrated, you're lost, write down those questions. You can write them in this document if you want. Next session we get into, we can do a really quick buzz through reviewing those questions before getting into the next matchup. And that way we can make sure you're on the right track.
Okay.
Awesome, man. As always, like I said, this first session's a little bit tons of it's like a gigantic lecture of 4,000 pieces of information. But I think we've got a good set of notes there. Refine build, benchmark, review build every few days to check you're doing it right, and know it intuitively. That's about it. record.
Yeah, no, that sounds good.
Record and label losses. So this is all written at the top, this little homework list. Record and label losses and write down questions, confusions, and things that make you uncomfortable or upset in game. If something makes us emotional, it's usually because we don't understand it. Or it's a weak point and our ego feels a little bit, this thing seems unfair. So those are the best things to hone in on if we want to improve nice and quickly.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. All right, good sesh. Write down questions. Do you know when you want to set up the next one? Do you want to book that in now, or should we give it a week or two of practice, see how you're developing, and then book it in?
Let's give it a week or two first. Awesome.
All right. Take a week or two, see how the practice goes. Good luck on the ladder, mate. And look forward to hearing from you.
All right, thanks a lot, Pig.
All right, good night, brother.
Yeah, see ya, man.
Laters. All right, good first session there. Did talk a bit more than I probably should. Should have a bit more back and forth, but following my theme of let's give you a goddamn endless resource in your Google document that you can go back and read over and over and over again. Hopefully helped him out. GG's.